Remember those old cell phone commercials? Can you hear me now? They had batteries in them. So we'll tie that in there a little bit. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our panel today on batteries and fires. I think we've put together a pretty good group here. My name is Dave Bestwick. I'm an executive with Dominion Nickel Alloys. I live just north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Have an extensive background in firefighting and training. I started out sweeping the floors and washing the trucks, and I was actually the fire chief for 12 years before I retired. So we had 3 stations that I was responsible for. We had 11 pieces of apparatus, and I oversaw about 75 firefighters, so men and women both. So I have a little bit of background. So as we go through this today, I just wanted you to know I'm not making it up as I go. I kind of understand what I'm saying. And then in 2018, it was ISRI at the time. ReMA had developed a working group to study the fire risk in our industry. And we were trying to put best practices and guidance documents together. I've had the privilege of leading that group for the last 7 or 8 years. I think I'll roll off this year at the end of the week. But we've done some work on it. We recognize there's a lot of work to go. The funniest part when we started, I'll say it out loud, in my head the goal was, well, we just won't bring these batteries into our yards. If we just avoid the batteries, life is going to be good. We don't need batteries. We'll let them handle the batteries. And what we quickly realized is they are all around us. They are everywhere in everything that we do. And we have to get our arms around it. So really excited to be here this week. Really excited to be with you this morning. I need to make introductions and I need my notes to do that. So to my left, your right, is going to be a fine fella named, hold on, I got it right here, Robert Schneider. And Rob is a 20-year veteran. I lost it. Of the fire service, serving as a firefighter, paramedic, and technical rescue specialist. He also holds a degree in fire science and multiple professional and technical certifications. He was a member of both local and national technical rescue response teams and has delivered fire and technical rescue training courses and serves nationally for the last 15 years. He's also the director of strategic alliances for the Energy Security Agency. Oh man, do I got questions for you. And specializes in fire-based research, testing, training, and consulting related to energy storage and electric vehicles. As a consultant for the ESRG, an active leader for the ESA and emergency responses to global lithium-ion battery incidents, he converts real-time experiences into education, presentations, and training programs for all stakeholders related to lithium-ion batteries. He's a fire EMS and technical rescue instructor, a podcast and conference presenter, and an FDIC instructor. So thank you. That's quite a resume. Thank you for being part of us this morning. And I'd love for you to just kind of take it from there. Maybe give just a little, I can ask some questions if you want, but okay. If you were to give a 2-minute detection, prevention, or handling piece of advice, as if no one in this room understood what the batteries were, what was going on, where would you start from the ground level?
So first of all, I would say, make connections with your local fire department or AHJ. That's the first key. They are not there to be punitive. They are there to work with you. And, from the safety side, a lot of times when we show up on runs in the fire service, the first time that we learn that there may be a dangerous, chemical or a dangerous item that's at that business is when we show up on, say, a fire alarm or an EMS run. And then we're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that they were storing batteries like this here, or they had this type of, chemical here. So having that personal connection. And then two, it helps a lot because then you're forming that relationship. But I'm also going to be very clear that your local fire services, whether it's big city, it's a small community, they are way behind the 8 ball in understanding. So a lot of times having that good relationship is going to help, because if you don't have that, they may come in and just throw the book and saying, here are all the regulations, because if they don't understand, they're just going to throw everything out, and a lot of times that's all they have to go on. So then I'm just going to do a, kind of a little build up of our company. That's where we can come in. because we can help you manage those regulations and those requirements. And then we can speak with the fire service and the fire chief or the prevention officer or the fire marshal and kind of say, hey, listen, they're doing this, they're meeting these requirements. And we can kind of be that intermediate, workaround to help you get things set up.
That's great. Yeah. That's a great piece of advice. You know what firefighters really like? Pizza. So if you were to offer them to come and tour your facility and say, hey, when your guys get here, we'll grab some pie from the place next door, right out of the gate, you started off on the good foot. So that's a free tip. Free tip from Dave. To my right, your left is Danielle Spalding. She's the Senior Vice President of Corporate and External Affairs. She has more than 20 years in public affairs and a decade in the battery industry. She drives company growth and brand reputation with innovative, creative, and forward-thinking initiatives. In her current role, she covers government affairs, communications, and community engagement. She's an advocate and trusted leader in this space related to policy implementation, both state and federal. Her deep knowledge of the battery recycling and sustainable critical mineral refinement sectors on a global scale and her inventive ideas to move the industry forward are huge. She supports the industry in various roles. She's the chairperson of the ReMA Battery Policy Working Group, is on the board of directors for the Battery Materials and Technology Coalition, board of directors for the Rechargeable Battery Association. And over the course of her career, she has worked with national brands, including Colgate, Nestle, Bacardi, Tom's of Maine, and among others. She holds an MBA in international business. So, Danielle, thank you for joining us. I'd love to know from your ReMA Policy Working Group standpoint, what is the biggest gain that we have for our membership that the members are going to be able to see as a tangible that your group is working on?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be, I guess, a couple of things. The first is, I'm going to say what we lead, especially in the Battery Policy Work Group, is through education, training, and then truly we have to talk about awareness. So within the work group, we take the members across different sectors within the recycling side. We are creating optionality for what we believe the guidance and position needs to look like to really support the recycling side when it comes to battery safety, prevention, handling, and then how does that translate into legislative or regulatory affairs. And for us, we put out a couple of different documents already. We started with the small and medium loose batteries. So I can already see, I like how you mentioned earlier, by the way, about the cell phone batteries, but yes, batteries are embedded in everything we do, right? So the mics we're wearing, right? To the cell phones, the tablets, the earbuds that you have in your pockets, and of course your watch. Yeah, we all have. So typically any one person has anywhere from 10 to 15 batteries on their individual, at any given time. And if you do want to do the math, if you have wireless earbuds, by the way, there's 3 batteries, one in each ear plus in the charger. So the big thing that we look at is how do we make sure and support not just the safe handling and education, but how do we want to work with the industry from across the areas? So with the small and medium loose format, we said, if you want to be able to handle batteries, because some teams like Cirba Solutions, so we're in the battery recycling side. We've got 6 operational sites, and we happen to be the largest operational footprint in North America. And we handle all formats, sizes, and chemistries. But we love batteries. Any battery, any chemistry, any size, any form, we'll take it. But not everybody wants to handle batteries because of the concern, right? The safety aspect. And of course, we want to help support mitigation. But if you want to handle batteries, we want to give you the opportunity to be able to do so. And if you don't want to have that responsibility, you become an improper disposal stream, whether that is going through a MRF or other environmental service areas, then we want to have and provide protection for you to ensure that there is safety, right, of liability concerns and responsibility areas when you're inadvertently getting this material. The second thing that we've worked on, and I believe we're going to focus mainly on small and medium today, but I will mention real quick on the propulsion batteries. Okay, real fast. Who in here actually owns an electric vehicle? Ooh, okay. Wait, more than I thought. This is great. Okay. So for anyone that raised their hands, right, those vehicles, they still have to be handled pretty much as a traditional, right, vehicle end of life. But the batteries, as we know, are quite significantly different. So we put together, especially with our automotive recycling teams, a propulsion battery position statement. And we have both position and a full guidance for ReMA staff when they go for advocacy to help ensure that we do not have these electric vehicle batteries, one, being responsible by those that do not have ownership of them. Two, we have a very focused, big support on safety and training, because we believe, again, people need to understand that the various battery chemistries have a wide range of how you're going to not just mitigate, but transport. Transportation and storage are by far some of the most important parts that you have when it comes to battery handling, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Sure.
I think if you take a look at that, it's really interesting. We're also going to be tackling, hopefully, embedded batteries is what we're looking at right now as an evaluation. But, I think a lot of great, exciting things that are happening right now. I feel like I can keep going, but I probably have questions and I should let.
Well, I like the poll of the audience, so I'm just going to,
Yeah.
I'm not a real scripted guy, so we're just going to kind of go as we go here. I'd be curious to know if we're more concerned. So I'll give you all the options and you can kind of raise your hand so we know where to focus. Are we more concerned with the larger format batteries, the medium batteries, or the smaller embedded batteries? Where do we want this conversation to go? Really big batteries? Couple. Okay. The medium batteries, a lot more. And then the small embedded batteries. Yeah, that's where we'll go then.
Hey.
That's awesome. Great. So that's where we're going to focus our attention.
I like the poll.
Yeah. So let me get my head together here. So where in your opinion is the best, I'm going to write notes down. If I am the yard owner, the operational plant manager, and I have to invest capital, if I got to put my dollars to work, how do I evaluate effective ROI from a detection suppression system analysis? When I go to my boss or I go to the CFO and say, I want to spend X, how am I showing that return?
Well, first of all, depending on where you live. So let's kind of break this down.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going to have batteries so right now, currently the International Fire Code is not caught up, believe it or not, to the storage and management of lithium-ion batteries. So what is currently being utilized is NFPA 855, which was based on fixed energy systems, but Chapter 14 deals directly with batteries that are being stored. Now, there's some exemptions. No one in here is going to have an exemption. Well, 99.9%, no one here is going to have the exemption. The exemption will be stated charge less than 30%, but you're going to have to verify that that's less than 30%. So you're going to have an engineer and the ability to measure that, right? So that's out. You're not producing a e-bike and the battery in the same place. So you have the batteries that gets an exemption because the product it's going into that item. So basically you're not going to have exemption. So best practice is for you to set up your business and your entity based upon NFPA chapter 855 chapter 14. But again, that's regulation, right? Best practice. Now though, California has adopted NFPA 855 as standard regulation. So some of these would be, you have to have radiant and heat detecting systems. You have to have fire suppression systems that meet based upon the aggregate load of batteries and an estimate of what's the full, production of heat release. Then your sprinkler system has to meet that requirement. You have to have ventilation studies, which are, could be $20,000 to $30,000 to do a computer, regulated, system to build it up and determine what you're going to need for ventilation. You have to have storage requirements, so much aggregate load per area, and then so many feet of distance. It's a lot. And we could spend 8 hours talking about that. So the best thing that you could do for return of investment is have somebody to come in and do a site assessment, help set everything up, and then take that to your AHJ and say, here, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to set it up. And is this going to meet what you're looking for? Again, if you're a county or the state of California, they're going to regulate it. Understand that your fire marshal or your fire chief is the ultimate authority. Mm-hmm. So if you're not in California and you're in Georgia somewhere, and that your local fire department who responds to your site, they have the decision to say what they are going to have you and the codes and requirements that you're going to have to adhere to. and they may say, we're going to utilize chapter 8 or 855, chapter 14. So your best bet is to find out what you need, have that relationship with the fire service, and then do best practices that you can. My advice is to do everything you can, even if it's not required, because you're going to then look out for the best safety of your employees, integrity of your company, and overall safety.
Yeah. So I think what's really interesting about it is that, so we've got, I mean, one of our facilities that I'm out of is like 100,000 square feet, and it's batteries, right? We're getting to end, top to bottom,
right.
All used scrap batteries. And I think that, so NFPA, I think, is such a great reference for anyone that's not familiar with it. And also there's the new, right, version that's coming out very soon. That's got, I would love to get into that stuff as we update it. And, but I think when you talk about ROI, the first question is, what's your prioritization as an organization? Scott, I would love to get into ensuring batteries do not get into your facility. Are you trying to collect batteries and you want to start getting into that business as an expanded service offering? Or are you just trying to do mitigation so it doesn't get into your process, but you know that they're going to be there? Because, no matter what, and I'm going to say it, even though it feels like it's something that doesn't need to be said, is, when we think about a thermal event for a battery, I mean, you are talking potentially about your facility, right? Your whole capital, and the safety of your team members should be first and foremost out of anything. But also a lot of teams are starting to try to do more mitigation efforts through AI, right? Detection and those types of things to ensure that even before that load gets to your specific facility, then you're able to remove the batteries before that, or you pre-stage settings then. So before materials go on to a conveyor or other areas, then they can start having those detections earlier. So an ROI is really, I think, connected to also what your prioritizations are as that business, because if you do want to handle more batteries, you have to be able to detect them through whatever, if they have mixed loads within them. Now, we probably have some electronic groups members. Yeah, we're doing a lot of polling apparently in this today. So electronic, anybody? Yes? Okay. I got a couple. Thank you, guys. There's my friends.
Yeah.
You're getting batteries every day, all day, right? In a lot of these materials. So, you're going to be an exception very similar to what we handle, right? Because we get a lot of, not just batteries, but a lot of the electronics, for recycling. But for those teams that don't want to receive it, especially environmental service teams and metal groups, they need to focus, I think, first on prevention methods, and then 2, training, right? Because an ROI, if you have proper training with the proper mitigation, even if, by the way, as reminders, there are different types of fire extinguishers for anyone that doesn't know, but these guys are the experts. But, to make sure that your teams on the floor are properly trained, and it's not just once. It is running drills. It is working with your fire departments. It is making sure that you are partnering together, because investment isn't just about equipment. It's about your people. And the more that your people are trained and they work very much with the local fire departments, that's how you're going to help mitigate potential risks that, you can keep lower versus having them go into bigger events.
Just curious, maybe I'm overstepping. You don't have to answer if it's confidential. How do you get insurance in today's market if you have an entire warehouse full of batteries? Because there's insurance adjusters walking through for renewals and seeing a pallet of batteries, and they're saying, you're not insurable, and you have an entire building.
Six locations full of batteries, multiple buildings.
Do you self-insure?
Nope. We have insurance. What I would say is that what insurance is most concerned about, which is actually a very big topic, is that you have to demonstrate your protocols, right? What is your fire safety measures and
emergency response plan,
all your emergency response plans. But when we have multiple types of processing, and because we're in different states and different provinces, because we're in Canada as well, then you have to not just follow those expectations, but obviously we always go above and beyond. So you need to demonstrate the prevention measures and detection measures that are through the processing, that are by the racking systems, that are in shipping and receiving, all the way through. And so we're very, very fortunate, because this is something obviously we take extraordinarily seriously, but it's also something where we invite, right, insurance, fire departments, and we try to, when we started to open up our South Carolina facility, when we were actually going out to evaluate where we wanted to have our next location, the first meeting we had was respectfully not with the city, right, Mayor? It was with the fire department. Because if we're not on the same page with them, then it's going to be a bumpy road for a long time. So it was really important that we felt that we could support each other, and we had that open communication at the very beginning.
Yeah, insurance is tough right now, right? So you said emergency response plan.
Yeah.
Everybody has an emergency response plan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to do the AI? No, we'll do the emergency response plan first. So what, from your standpoint or what you see when you're doing your job, where do you see gaps currently in the ERP whenever you're just doing an audit or a site visit, or where are the gaps that be nice if we took something tangible home on Thursday when you got on a plane, right? And you thought, well, I learned something. Where's a gap that we could take back to our facilities and say, they talked about this in Vegas. We need to make sure we're not exposed.
Well, let's go back to the simplest of what she was mentioning earlier, awareness.
Mm-hmm.
A general awareness for all employees at your site. If you have the secretary or the admin working in the office, but they're at the site where the batteries are in the warehouse, everybody needs to have that general awareness of, we teach sight, smell, sound. And it's a basic, like, these are the indicators that until proven otherwise, there's something going on with a battery, right? They produce a certain smell a lot of times when they're going when they're in a thermal event, even if you're not seeing off gassing or you're not seeing fire, or, monitoring, CO meters, gas meters, thermal imaging cameras. So that comes into even training, advanced training for more of the technicians or those that are handling the batteries. But, even if you just add initial awareness training through your EHS program, right? That is a number one key, because early detection, one, safety for all the employees, early detection. So maybe you catch something early, call 911, and you don't burn down the building and you don't have a full loss. And then the next level would be, and as you mentioned earlier, we partnered with ReMA, formerly ISRI, and we have what's called an EV safety technician course. So basically that you send your technicians, they come in, and over 2 days, you get the fire, the awareness side, lithium ion 101, best practices, how to basically, we'll go over a quick, how to set up your site, a workflow. We like labeling batteries, kind of doing a triage, if you will. When you receive batteries in that, you're getting batteries, is it a green? Is it a yellow? Is it a red? And I'll expand on that. Hey, this battery, it's not damaged on any side. It's not swollen. So it's a good battery, right? It can go into general population, but you should store them in certain areas, right? Just don't have everything put in one big pile. Yellow would be, hey, this is kind of questionable. And then a red would be it's already had an event. It looks like it's been burned up. It's swollen. Well, you don't want to put that battery, you don't even want to put it inside. But if you do, you should put it in certain areas where it's, can be managed. And so you're doing a triage and you're managing what's coming in and going out. You're setting up a workflow. Those are the good things. So we'll go over all that. And then we also do, on a second day, our engineering team, will go through and they'll basically start off with basic electricity all the way up to how to drop a battery out of a vehicle and give you those tools. Because as I know we're not focusing on the large format, but, a lot of, you in here, eventually you're probably going to start doing that, because we really haven't reached the first gen of electric vehicles en masse that are coming to end of life. So, when they really started being mass produced and being bought, 2015 to 2020, we're now coming on the 10 to 15 year lifespan. They're going to start showing up en masse, right? So if you're taking cars and large batteries, you're probably going to want to start doing that to stay in the game and profitable. So that course kind of sets the foundation. And then we also offer what's called IMI certification, and that's levels up to 1, 2, 3, and then level 4. That's for your advanced technicians, and that's level 4 is all the way to where you can actually drop a battery pack, open it up, break it down to a module size, and even do root cause analysis, cell balance testing. So we're the only organization in North America. So IMI is Institute of the Motor Industry. In Europe, you cannot touch an electric vehicle unless you have that training and that certification. In the United States, there's really no, standard that you have to meet. But we offer that course and that certification. So
we just had a group go through it, not last month. Is that correct? ReMA just did. So yeah, I remember that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm going to build on 2 small things on that because it was interesting. We had a tour come through. We have a lot of visits, right? People love to see batteries, at end of life, and wearing gloves, doing things, talking with technicians, and there was a damaged battery, which is very common. And they did not want to touch, like they didn't even want to be next to it. There was like, they handed me the battery. I had my gloves on. I have all my safety PPE, right, going on. And then everyone literally took 5 steps back away from me the minute I touched the battery. And I say that because we need to be not fearful, but respectful of the situations. We need to educate ourselves to the point with our facilities that I think that fear provides something that you don't want to handle it. I think that if we provide through education the respect of these situations, then you can say, okay, what is my damage specific battery, right, protocol if there was something to happen within this specific area, and we say DDR, but I'm going to say damage or defective because the recalls are really handled in a very different type of approach. So when you have a damaged or defective item, please make sure that is a specific part of your emergency response planning, even when it comes in. But the other area is all of your drivers. Okay. So if you're thinking anywhere, if any of the teams here have over the road teams or even your forklift drivers, guys, right? If something were to happen when it's in transport, whether that is happening, between from one side of the facility to the other, whether it's outside or if it's literally over the road. When you have emergency response plans, a lot of teams tend to focus those if they are going to be in the facility or at shipping and receiving, but not always if they are in transport from one place to another. So please just make sure to keep that as an inclusion area when you're thinking about how to respond.
And very important, we might come back to it, but
please,
you mentioned transport.
Yeah.
The other huge concerning area is that the misunderstanding or lack of any knowledge of the requirements of transporting batteries, and more specifically, if they are damaged or defective, and having the ability to make that determination. Is it meet damaged defective, right? And then based upon that, DOT and PIMSMA have very strict regulations on the transport of these. And that's part of, one aspect of what we do is we go all over the United States, all over the world, but we're constantly on roadway incidents where, if you don't have batteries in your business right now, but you live somewhere, and I promise you, you're going to pass a truck every time you're on the road that's on the freeway or a 2-lane road that's carrying batteries, whether they're transporting them somewhere to a recycler or not. And they are most often packed completely wrong and unsafe.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely. So understanding what is required, how to designate what the disposition of that battery, and then packing it appropriately. And the last thing you want to do, if nothing happens, okay, I got lucky, right? You're rolling the dice. But when something does happen and you are found to have not packed it appropriately, and it's not just the shipper, because if they come and pick it up from your facility, you still have some ownership because it came from you need to know too how they need to be packed and managed. And I think the last update that we got is per infractions, like $250,000 per infraction.
Yeah.
And just to give you an incident, we just ran a cleanup for 11 days, in, Illinois. There were 26,000 small format batteries. They were all packed inappropriately.
Yeah.
You do the math.
Yeah.
Basically that company's no longer going to be a company.
Wow.
Right. So.
No, I think that packaging is really important. And I would also say, I feel like I'm facing this guy's part. I'm going to focus over this way so I can say, hi, thank you. He's a good participant right there. The other part of this is that in transport, so we're very fortunate to be part of the Hawaii, working group. They had some legislation passed to do all the evaluations. And so transporting from island, whether it's through vessel or I'm in Michigan or ferry, right? Because we have some small little locations.
It's a whole nother.
It's a whole other area. Please make sure you are working with the proper teams because road versus, like an actual vessel transportation is quite different. And the actual, I would say carriers can also put on additional stipulations to you beyond what DOT requires. And it's important to make sure that you have a really positive relationship with that particular entity because, if something were to occur and I'm going to say when something occurs, because the reality is if you deal with a lot of batteries all the time, something will, but if you have proper packaging, if you have proper mitigation that has been put into place and you have the proper responses, then you're going to be able to handle this appropriately, swiftly, and quickly. But, when we receive materials, so we help support the recycling, a lot of the batteries from the California fires, and it was a real challenge. Like, we had to send other teams to repackage, or we repackage material once it gets to our site because of that lack of education that tends to go on. But understanding the differences between the types of transport that there are, is still really, really important. And if anyone doesn't know, I find this to be a fun fact. Who right now has a, charger on them, like a little battery? Portable charger right now. Anybody? I got a couple. See, I got one too, guys. Okay, technically on a plane, which you're not supposed to put batteries on planes. If you have a new one, 30% state of charge is all that's allowed to go onto a plane, and you can't use it.
Right.
On the plane.
It has to be visible.
Yes.
It's not supposed to stay in your purse or your bag.
Yes, it is. So battery regulations that are coming out are getting very, very specific, even for individuals beyond companies. Now, is everything followed? I mean, we can debate that. But should we as organizations put the safety first from prevention, handling, mitigation? 1,000%. Because again, it's really, I am a rare person. I had this discussion with I will say a fire department, and I will not say what state. And they were talking to me about the safety aspect of everything. And I go, okay, I hear you. I go, but I'm the only person on a call of 15 people at an actual operational site that has 100,000 square feet of batteries right now. I want to go back home to my family that day, and I want everybody in my facility to. So the safety approach that we have needs to have that mindset, because batteries truly are something that we need to just be respectful of, truly, through the whole chain.
Yeah. So we're about halfway through our time. I'd love to answer questions. I don't like waiting until the end because we get good questions coming and then we don't have enough time. So I'll ask a question. Oh, we got a question. Good. I was going to ask a question while you waited to come up with a question. So the smartest guy in the room, Jerry. Go ahead. Everybody actually turned to look to see who I was talking about. Go ahead, Jerry. No. So could everyone hear the question? If we have an appliance, cell phone, or other piece of apparatus that's run using only a battery, meaning it doesn't plug in or out, it's only battery powered. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work anymore, does that mean the battery is completely dead?
No.
The answer is no. There's always going to be residual charge.
So it depends on the device. It depends on the usage, the cycles. It depends on, also I would say what it's been exposed to, right? Temperatures, et cetera. If it's a small electronic device, then your electronics teams that are in the room that had raised their hands earlier, can, I think, really demonstrate, how they try to take this from a reuse, right? Or, ReMA sometimes approach to put other electronics back into the market. And if it's obviously large format, there's always repurposing. But you can also actually ReMA or repair a lot of material, from a large format, whether that's an electric vehicle or ESS. But I think most often people always think of EVs going from an EV to an ESS unit. But repair and ReMA work for those large format batteries it is something that is growing exponentially. So I don't know if anyone actually read or saw the presentation today, but they talked about the trends, right? And that things only keep going faster. Mm-hmm. And I think the ReMA and repair on those large format are going to be something really big. And we have a hand.
I would say, I don't know that there's much, negotiating with them. It's pretty adamant because their big fear is understanding. And again, I like how you said knowledge and respect to the batteries. We don't need to fear them, but we need to understand the potential, and knowledge and understanding is key, but they don't want bad events happening.
Of course.
So they're pretty strict on what they're going to require. And so, but how to understand what's needed, probably more reach out to a subject matter expert that can help guide you on that. And even if it's somebody that you can have on an on-call basis, just, hey, I've got this situation, and maybe it just could be, hey, I can talk you through it, kind of give you some oversight and understanding, because I'll even hit like one more from Jerry's point of view, and is it still a battery? Does it still have energy, stranded energy, if it's no longer powering the device that's needed? Even more so under transportation, sometimes we have to go in, you mentioned the islands. So if we work with a couple of the large OEMs and manage their batteries. Some of them are on the Hawaiian Islands, right?
Yeah.
And most ships will not take any batteries anymore. There's been too many that have sunk because of these situations. So when we go over there, we have to go in and take our equipment and discharge the batteries down to a 0%. Mm-hmm. Now, if that battery was dispositioned as a DDR battery, we still have to take it down to 0%. But guess what? It still has to be packaged as a DDR, because you want to know why? It's still a battery. It still has electrolyte.
It still go into an event, even at zero charge.
It still can go into an event.
It's not the battery that scares me. It's the combustible material that's all around the battery when it wants to go into runaway, right? When it wants to have an event.
No, when basically lithium-ion 101 is very similar. It's 4 parts to that battery, right? You got your positive material, your negative material, and then you've got a separator, because the negative and positive materials, they hate each other. So if they
constant war, right?
Contact, right? It's on. They put a separator in there, but that separator is it's plastic, polypropylene.
And what do we use to keep it cool?
Electrolyte in there, and that helps manage everything. But the electrolyte,
it's flammable.
Right.
So
it's basically, let's put gasoline in between these two things that if they touch or contact, it creates heat, short circuit, so it's an amazing design, right? It powers everything that we have. So
I'm going to say one other thing from the federal agency perspective, like DOT, for example, there's a lot of agencies, I think, that touch, right, this particular area. The UN is obviously still doing a huge amount of work as well, right? Especially on potentially new UN numbers coming down for lithium ion. What I have found, at least from my experience in it, is that most of the agencies, they really want to be able to have trusted industry partnerships. That's why things like FCAB and Lightbridge and all of these other types of, groups have been created, is because they have really smart people, but also they need to be with the people that are actually executing on a day-to-day basis to understand, like, this is our experience in the lab. This is what you're finding. This is what we find over here. And so I would always encourage minimally, at least, to try to reach out to share information, and you need to do it not just once, but, frequently enough, whether that's quarterly, a couple times a year, to provide information or education, or if something new is coming. And when there's comment periods, when there are these other things, please, the things that change are by those that participate. So if we are passive, right, within this industry and then we're just going to accept whatever regulatory approach happens, then we will. But if you can participate, right, then you can try to help at least provide better understanding from your own business perspective and experience.
We'll put a bow on this. Jerry, when you're meeting with the DOT, you interact with the DOT pretty regularly at the federal level. Is that fair? Is that a topic of conversation currently? Battery, transport, safety, storage, that kind of stuff?
The rule is the rule right now, but I think as time goes on and we get more accustomed to these batteries, my hope is we'll see some change in that. People will be a lot more educated by them and understand some of the things we need to do, with those to make it a little bit better for us. If you follow the rules, some of them aren't that terrible as far as packaging goes, but it's using common sense and using vented barrels, for instance. So there's a middle ground there that we have to talk to them about it and make sure that we are protecting the people hauling them and ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you for fighting the fight. I'm sure you feel like you're pushing water up a hill at times, but thank you for your efforts. Jason, you had a question?
Yeah, actually, it's going to point out that every time you get on an airplane, the question we ask is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you use a scanner on their cell phone, right? That you just put the airplane in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say, not dispositioning them correctly when you receive them. So taking in batteries and not realizing that this, based upon outward appearance or, certain other criteria, sight, smell, sound, that you improperly or storing them inside or outside, and you haven't dispositioned them correctly. And then 2, not following having too many batteries in an aggregate load, right? Stacking everything in a huge area and not having fire breaks and distances between those. And then maybe storing them deep into your facility instead of toward a roll-up door so that at least something could be mitigated easier, ventilation, right? And then beyond that, I would say looking into there's other options. So like, let's give me an example. You have batteries in a large area of your warehouse. A lot of times by the time the heat would get up in the sprinkler system, a lot of times you're going to have off-gassing before you're even going to have the fire.
Yeah.
The off-gassing is the worst thing right now. If the fire's bad, right? We get that. But if the fire there's no exposure, when it's on fire, it's burning up all the bad stuff, just being very clearly simple, right? Simple speed. But the off-gassing, that's not good. And it's very explosive as well. By the time the sprinkler systems go off, right, it's probably already created too much of a problem. But here's the next problem. The sprinkler system goes off. It's going off now everywhere in the warehouse. So now all your other batteries are getting water put on them. And if there's electrical connection still, you'll get an electrical fire. And then guess what? The electrical fire will then create the battery cells inside by the heat that catch on fire. So it's like propagation all the way through. So even on that, there are systems that can come in. So we don't sell a product, but Fire Rover is one that it's actually managed 365, 24/7 remotely like a drone. And it has early detection systems. And if it's detected, it can remote control from distance remotely and target that area. And it's not for suppression. It's protection until a fire department gets there. So and then that way you have a stop loss. You don't lose the whole facility.
Good question.
Yeah.
We had one in the back. I couldn't see whose hand went up.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
So I guess what I would say from the design for recycling, is that in the small format, we're going to continue to encourage and state the reasons why. But I think for the small format, it's got to be as a juice worth the squeeze, right? To an extent for the producer and the manufacturer on it. But from a large format perspective, I think there is absolutely something to be considered and to be encouraged by, because with the extended producer responsibility bills that are coming out, right? There's been one passed in Jersey, another's Colorado is very, very active right now, many other states that are going on. And within those particular bills, they call out there could be a cost potentially, right, to even remove the battery, right, from the vehicle. So if they make it too difficult, if it takes too long, they could be charged for labor and time and everything else potentially within that. So it incentivizes them to make it more easily removable, right, for a particular yard to be able to do so, and or an auto recycler groups, all those kinds of things.
Are there any auto dismantlers?
Yeah, where are you? Anybody?
Recyclers.
Oh, we got a couple. Okay, thank you guys.
So,
Are you dismantling right now? Yeah, EVs for a scrap. Love that. We'll take the batteries if you need them, just so you know. We're here for you.
So one thing, remember that when you're doing your clean out, right? You know you got a battery in the car. People leave things in the car, right? So the first thing, they left an old iPad or there's an old cell phone, right? And then if that gets missed, here's the other big one. A lot of your electric vehicles, they're no longer using, lead acid batteries for the low voltage system. They're using prismatic lithium ion, right? And so there is no red cable. There is no black cable. There are no posts. It looks like a little Barbie Jeep Power Wheels battery, right? And it's little low voltage disconnect, right? So that gets missed and then it goes and you crush it. Guess what's happening? You just created a fire that can turn into a big issue. And don't forget, it's not just electric vehicles. A lot of your higher end internal combustion engine vehicles, because of all the advanced electronics, will have supplemental lithium ion low voltage batteries powering. So having that understanding for your work crews to look through the vehicles and know what they're looking for, some advantages and things that you could use there is the emergency response plans for vehicles. So every vehicle manufacturer is supposed to provide an overview of that particular vehicle make, model, and year to talk to you how to do a low voltage shutdown, the high voltage disconnect, what systems are in there. So there's good resources, but you have to know that they're there and you have to utilize them.
So to answer
someone's
your
going to mention this,
yeah,
by the way, tires.
Yes.
Don't forget about the tire battery.
Yes, there is pressure
I love
to
the tire
put
batteries.
the sign for recycling into the battery makers, but she said it better than I would have. They're not interested in the discussion because there's no financial benefit for them to do it at this point.
So I would also say then, like, we're obviously beautiful state, right, in Nevada right now. But
The lieutenant governor's
yeah, it was really good actually. He did a great job today.
Great salesman.
But what was really interesting is that with gosh, I'm losing my train of thought all of a sudden here. As we were going through for the innovation, so now in the EU specifically with the battery passport that's being implemented, it had been pushed out a couple of times, but the traceability requirement and design for recycling requirements to help reduce the burden right on teams. You're going to hear everybody say it, carrot and stick, right? Like we tend to be the stick. They tend to try to have a carrot to an extent. Verse. We like to incentivize. They like to penalize. And a lot of the times in Europe, what they're going to do is that they have much more stringent requirements. If the U.S. were to pass something federally, which I don't know if that's going to happen or not yet, then I think that will provide more incentive for design for recycling for these large format batteries more than anything.
Yeah.
Shannon
you
had
a
something.
question.
She was coming up.
And then I'd love to know if you have any insight on what WM's doing from an AI standpoint with your team. There's got to be crazy trials going on, right? So ask your question and then I'll ask mine.
Yeah. Well, okay,
So,
there it is. I just wanted to, so hi, I'm Shannon. I work at WM. And just because I was on the battery policy work group, I did want to say that in the ReMA position on
design for recycling.
Yes.
There is.
Like,
both times.
Yes. So the, call out for design for recycling is in both of the positions, the propulsion batteries and the small and medium format non-embedded. So it's still a priority. It's just that, yeah, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill, trying to get, any movement on that. So I just wanted to mention it.
No, I love that. And we're going to continue to push for it.
Yeah.
Like do everything on the battery side. I think we need to.
So yeah. So I don't want anybody to think that like it's still a priority. It's
Absolutely.
It's really hard. And then in terms of like what we're doing with AI and, if we're doing any trials, that's not something I could comment on, but like we're very, big supporters of Fire Rover, and that's really like, we've got Fire Rover and even like, movable little fire units, if any, anyway, so that's
there's
kind of our
fixed and then they have remote,
like
movable.
Yep. Yeah. And so, but in terms of AI stuff, I'd have to get back to you on that.
That's fine. I thought I saw Tamara come in.
We have a question over here.
Oh, we do? Yes, sir.
Oh,
Can you use that mic, sir? I'm having a hard time.
I'm deaf from the fires.
What's that?
Yeah.
So, some of, most of the batteries are picked up by the pickers, but some passes through and it ends up in the shredder, and which causes a fire.
Yep.
Is there a better way? Like, is there a strategic way to, address these shredder fires?
The shredder fires or the trying to get to the batteries before they hit the shredder?
How much ever we train the guys, like we still have this issue, like once in a month or once in 2 months.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you want me to start with that and you want to add on to it?
Sure.
Okay. So I got really a good voice there now all of a sudden on my mic, guys. So I think the first thing is that do you have any safety, I'm not going to ask any questions. I will recommend an evaluation of safety protocols that are on the shredder, right, for mitigation efforts when the fire were to occur. And the fires obviously will typically occur on something from an electronics team member, whomever you might be, would be toward the beginning part of that process. So either if it's an AI, right, trying to remove that device, probably an embedded battery is more than likely is what I will assume, had gotten into the mix, or so trying to remove that from the belt initially, or the conveyor as it's going. And then if you actually have the shredder itself, then evaluating optionality for suppression systems within that area, usually on the outer areas, to help then you should have monitoring devices and then thermal suppressants readily available that should be able to detect and then expose. But
we had a working group under the shredder subcommittee that was working on this. Did they publish a report? Do you remember? Is it not done yet? No? Okay. So I don't have a step-by-step for you, I was asking Jerry.
Oh, Jerry.
I don't have a step-by-step for you, but we do have a very intelligent group of people within the trade association trying to come up with 4 or 5 or 10 best practices step by step to reduce or mitigate to answer your question. So
yeah,
we're good.
Yeah. I like all these questions.
I do too. I think it's better. Oh, 2 more. Yes, sir. Go ahead right here. Yep. That'd be great if you could. Yeah. Cause apparently he can't.
I can't hear.
Yeah. So.
I can't read since and he can't hear it. This is
My name's Jeff and I'm with a company in Portland, Oregon called EFI Recycling. And we specialize in commingled recycling, particularly curbside.
Love that.
And we applaud programs coming online to recycle the batteries. We've already had insurance issues because they're in the commingle. Mm-hmm. Our insurance issues got much worse because we're now pulling them out and they see them. It took us a year and a half to get our insurance carriers to allow us to actually do it. And what I'm leading to is we're one of, 1,000 companies are probably going to be, doing that. Mm-hmm. Has there been any, and it's all small battery, has there been looks at potentially color coding types of batteries? Yeah. I'm naive about this, but because we now have to sort and be the experts. And oftentimes you can't easily tell the difference between an alkaline. Ironically, alkaline is about 97% of what we get. Of course. But we still understand the need to do what we're doing. So that was my question.
Great question. I don't know.
Small facilities like ours, what do we do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Cirba Solutions has been doing, it's actually our 35th year this year. I feel like it's like a wedding anniversary or something. I don't know what that is. So, but it's been really exciting. One of the things is I would love to say that we would go back to color coding, right? People used to be like, this is the green and this, right? Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see that in any way in the future. And really though, the driving factors behind that is because of the amount of batteries that are being produced or manufactured overseas and then that are coming in, both whether that is through online retailers, through the embedded devices, right? Which is usually going to be more like your lithium primary batteries. They're often in there. And then, the standardization requirements are quite different, in like Asia versus if you were to produce in the US versus if you have to produce in like Sweden. So I think that just because of the regionality of production footprint that we see now globally and the varying degrees of requirements, that's already going to make it pretty difficult. I think that alkaline, it's still the most commonly sold battery, right? It's still going to exist for a while. It's dirt in a can, right? We love it. We actually process alkaline batteries in Michigan. We love it. Great little story that zinc and manganese we use as a micronutrient to fertilize our teams. And it helps grow crops, people, right here in the U.S. So corn, soybeans, something really good, robust. But, I think what's really challenging is that when teams are trying to get into the idea of sorting and then getting the mixed loads in is truly the education, right? Batteries have different weights, different vent systems, all of these other approaches. And you really have to be able to do your due diligence and research and education, to be able to do that. And quality checking is the most critical component before it goes on to the next step to where we send those for processing. So I would love to say color coding's coming back, but would you agree or disagree with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah.
Who wants to talk about the wire coding for electric vehicles? Because it used to be that they have to be a different color. And now it was cheaper, I think, to go back to a single color. And that's a real challenge.
Really easy when we had an extrication on a vehicle accident, right? Yeah. You could see it really quick, but
yeah, different identifiers now.
There was another question. Yes, sir. Go ahead. So as a trade association, we're not going to recommend. I'll give you my personal opinion if that helps you, but I just want to be clear. It's not ReMA's position. Is that fair? Okay. So when I was the chief, when I was a captain, we used AFFF foam in all the fire trucks, right? We had a reservoir of it in the trucks and the young guy had to carry the big totes up to the top to fill it, right? Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And when I became chief, we drained all of the tanks and went to F500 because we liked that encapsulating technology that it provided us on the fire ground, whether it was vehicle fire, house fire, whatever it was. So from Dave Bestwick's standpoint, I hope that answers your question. Like that's what I chose to do to keep our guys the safest, right? Not a ReMA position, my position. So go ahead.
So my position, I'm going to say there is currently no magic elixir or fairy dust, period. So you can take that as you will. On a small format event, yes, those things can work very well. But if you're going to have a full traction pack battery or a large event, water is still proven to be the safest, most effective, proven cooling agent, and actually the safest. Because a lot of times when you have the agents, if it's an encapsulator or a surfactant, well, the problem is what it does is it knocks out combustion, but it doesn't stop thermal runaway. Nothing stops thermal runaway. So now that you're not burning, as I spoke of earlier, you're producing the off-gassing again, which it's full of CO2, and hydrogen, highly explosive. And so when that agent starts to wear off and that membrane wears off, not only do you get reignition, you have an increased chance of explosion. So, again, small format. I mean, we kind of tell a funny story. I mean, if I have a small battery here and I take a Shamrock Shake from McDonald's and pour it on it, it's going to go out. But then I'm going to go out and say, hey, Shamrock Shakes put out lithium ion fires, right? Right. You got to put it in context. So, and I'm speaking of from our experience so we're NFPA's primary testing lab. And so we've been testing batteries from small format up to 53-foot Connex containers that are 10 megawatt systems. And we get the fun side of making them catch on fire and then managing it afterward. And then our engineers do all the calculations and the nerd work, right? But for the NFPA, we just got done with a 2.5-year study on the best practices for EV and lithium ion suppression. And so our experience as a testing lab is, I can't speak up with NDAs, but we've tested if you have an agent, if it's an encapsulator or a surfactant, we've tested it. Mm-hmm. And still to this date, there is nothing better than water. Mm. Water has its limitations, right? As I spoke of earlier, if you're going to use water in a sprinkling system and I don't have a direct water flow, I'm going to put water on everything, and water doesn't work well with electricity. Most of your batteries, if they're tied together in a system, they're tied together electrically. Now I get an electrical fire, which then that heat can create the battery cells themselves to go into a battery fire, right? So just educate yourself and just understand that everything has limitations, but take that as you will.
Yeah.
Questions? More questions? I can ask this. Go ahead.
Oh, who wants to go first? I'll go.
I think I met you. You're based out of New York, right? Yeah. When do I think? Go ahead. I'll put my head together. Well,
sure?
Yeah.
I think that truly detection, which is part of prevention, the time has already started. You're finding that states specifically are providing grant programs and incentive options for organizations to install detection devices in the recycling side to help mitigate the concerns and risks, and then also enhance safety for personnel. So I think that we are often always, fire is always something, which is not a word I like to use often, but it is something that gets a lot of the attention because of obviously then what the result looks like. But prevention and detection are really what I think is getting the funding right now and starting to really evaluate that. So I would say it still needs more, without a doubt. And I think if you got a booth or something, I'd be happy we can set it out for you. But we have to evaluate more of those optionalities. And a lot of teams, if it's working now, then people usually are going to keep staying stagnant. But once something does occur, then they're going to start evaluating those options. And I would really encourage any organization here today to evaluate the detection and prevention today, right? So if you need to save, if you've got to do a capital raise, whatever you need to do to make that happen, start evaluating that now. But I think you will find that at the state level. And if looking for opportunities, always talk to your economic development teams, and they'll be able to help direct you to those areas.
So I guess if I had to answer your question directly, when will we see an industry shift or standard towards that? Probably not soon enough would be my answer. Probably should have already happened would be my answer. I think I'll speak for me. I think the unknown of AI is a bit scary, but interesting at the same time, right? I don't think anybody in this room wants their facility to have an incident or a fire. Yeah. It just sucks from start to finish. Mm-hmm. So I think there's naturally going to be an incentive or a shift, if you will, for it to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen, quickly. I think it's going to be I don't trust that the technology is there to be effective enough to do it time in and time out and time in and time out. So I think as that develops and people start to feel more comfortable with it and we start to see success stories with the AI, in the in-feed lines of the shredder, for example, I think it'll go quick. But until we get to that point, does that answer your question? Did you want? No?
Oh, you got one right here.
I don't. Well, you were like right in the line of that light. I apologize. I didn't see you.
This way to see the side of the grid.
Yes, hello. In the space of transboundary movement of batteries, the regulation seems to vary depending on the country where the batteries are coming from.
Sure.
Mainly because here in the US there's processing capacity. And we see that in the case of when we're exporting or importing batteries from Mexico in the reclassification, that there's a lot of trouble there. What are the main areas of collaboration that you would see, and how can we make that in practice? Because the material flow is already there, and I think there's a big opportunity.
I don't have an answer.
Yeah, the collaboration from the aspect of partnerships for transboundary movement for batteries. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that honestly, you need to work with, the only thing that my team specializes in is the reverse logistics for batteries. There are lots of amazing teams out there that do transportation, but we only basically deal in hazmat transport, and the reverse logistics very specifically. So, partnering with teams with that specific specialization, I'm sure there's lots of teams, right, that you guys are familiar with to be able to provide that education and training. But I think that you need an experienced team. We're finding a lot of groups are trying to get into the area right now, which I think is great. We need more competition, and we need the industry to thrive, and we want more focus on it. But obviously, Mexico to U.S. and even Canada to U.S. are very different approaches because of the transboundary movement requirements that they have. So I think that look first for hazmat certification, of course, and then choose specialization in battery transport. And after you have your documentations of all your NDAs in place, ask them for, you want to see what type of batteries have they moved, how they've done them, et cetera, to feel more comfortable with that. And I hate to say this, but a good search is going to give you a long way. And you can ask for recommendations, talk to your, not your DOT teams, but your carriers. They will also likely have recommendations for you if you don't want us to do it.
So we have about 5 minutes left.
Oh my gosh.
Are we good?
Yes.
I can ask one more question. Go ahead.
Thank you guys so much for asking so many
love
questions.
the interact.
This is.
Yeah.
You talked specifically about draining the power out of the battery, making it a DDR so it's safe for storage. Is that something that you would recommend for a facility that might be a scrap processor? They intermittently receive batteries and they accumulate them and store them for a period of time. They'd be better off investing in, are there commercially available pieces of equipment to remove that charge?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer.
But the thing is, it could be an answer, but then you have to, does your team have trained individuals, that can manage that? And basically that's still a process that's moving and it's dynamic on best practices with discharging batteries. Probably would not really be cost effective. The better way would probably be to have a site assessment done and realize a better way to store the batteries that are compliant and safe, and to manage them that way, instead of the time and the work and the expense, and then having the qualified staff or technicians to do that, would probably far be more expensive than coming up with a safer and effective way to manage that. I mean, there's depending on your load, but I mean, there are cabinets and walk-in cabinets that could be made that are NFPA compliant with ventilation detection that you could store, and they could be inside, and then you could store those there until you manage those. So there's multiple ways to come up with, it's easier if we had a talk and you kind of tell me and I look around and then I could say, hey, here's your option that would be far better and less expensive.
Good question.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. Ready? So what operational changes can we make that would reduce fire incidents without increasing our processing costs? So from a yard to yard to yard standpoint, what can we do that's easy to reduce risk without adding yet more cost?
Comes right back to forget AI. It comes back to people.
Okay.
Initially have everybody on that initial back to awareness. A little bit of education and knowledge goes a long way. And if everybody knows the indicators of what can happen in an event's possible, even just from assessing and triaging, one, you're already setting yourself up for success. Because if I manage my batteries when they come in appropriately, I've already now just cut the risk way down. So, and I know if my at-risk batteries, then I have a plan of storing them properly, that if there was an event, it's not going to propagate into a huge loss.
Catastrophic.
Right. And then that still comes back to that initial simple training, that could be, very inexpensive. Before you're even getting into actually, then the next step would be setting up your organization or your site to be NFPA 855 compliant with early detection systems, with something like a fire rover, with, your employees who manage the batteries have their own CO or four-gas meters and thermal imaging cameras, and that training, very inexpensive to understand what you're looking for and how to utilize that. Maybe having some fire blankets or some lithium ion battery kits for, some suppression to put on early. So all that comes back to people, and just initial general training, will go a long way.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to say, first off, absolutely agree with all of that. I will actually say the best way to have prevention is education before it reaches your facility. So specifically, working with the teams that are collecting the materials before when you go pick them up at that location. When we think about customers, right? We talk to a lot of teams and they're like, I don't want to lose the customer. I'm a little concerned. You have to hold them accountable, respectfully and thoughtfully. And then sometimes they also need help on the education of how to properly package or provide them some simple training and tools that need to be done, because the safety of your people is first and foremost. So the best way to prevent without having to put a ton of dollars is ensuring that you're giving your customers also the responsibility and education that they need. So when it comes to you, it is hopefully, hopefully it is the first step of compliance, before it reaches your doors.
We had one more question, Jeff. Yes, sir, there is. If you go to the ReMA website, under the safety tab, there's a whole section of fire, and there's a best management practice or a BMP document that would help you set up there's several different tabs there. And that best management practice took us 14 months to put together. I mean, it wasn't something we just did on a napkin at the eye candy bar in Vegas on a Tuesday night. Like we had lawyers in the room it was a very well thought out document. So to answer your question shortly, yes, it's a public facing document on the ReMA website. Please use it. Is it battery specific or just fire specific? Did everybody catch that joke?
Yeah.
So did everybody hear that? There's a safety pavilion downstairs in the convention hall, right? And there's staff there that can really help point you in the direction. And we have staff at ReMA that would be happy to come to your facilities and do some training if that helps you as well.
Shannon's got something I'll add right after that.
Yeah, I was just going to add, there's also the ReMA work jointly with NWRA, the National Waste and Recycling Association, and SWANA, the Solid Waste Association of North America, on battery guidelines for MRFs. So that's also on the same website that Dave was talking about. There's guidelines and best practices specifically on MRFs, and those are across the three primary industry groups. So.
Good question. Thank you.
The last thing I'm going to plug on the education for battery side, and we don't talk about this enough, I think, is the JSON learning. So there's a great partnership that ReMA has with Jason Learning specifically to help education for those trying to get into recycling overall, and it's usually for high school and below. But it actually is a fantastic, if people here are not as familiar with batteries whatsoever, it's a great starting point for you. And I would really suggest just to check out the Jason Learning as well as an option if you're looking for just to start somewhere in there as well.
Awesome. So thank you for joining us today. We hope you have a fantastic week at the ReMA convention. And the goal is when you go home, you say, wow, I took something tangible with me. So have a great time. Win lots of money. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, guys.